What are we smoking, Mike?
Oh, is it my turn or is it your turn? I thought that it would be my turn to say it.
Well, then
Are
say
we
it.
off? Are we off? Okay.
We're recording. Just say it. No.
Welcome to Nice Ashes. Join hosts Mike and Nate for cigars and culture. Let's go beyond the smoke.
What are we smoking today, Nate?
Stogie. We smoke Stogie.
We smoke Stogies.
We are smoking the Old Havana, and it says Stogies on the top. So you know it's top shelf.
It's got handmade on the band.
I know. It also says handmade. It's long. And I think it's the Stogies that's kind of throwing me. I think if it didn't say Stogies, it'd probably be fine. Like I wouldn't have any negative connotations about it, but here we are.
Honestly, it smells like honey. It smells
does
really good.
Smell flavored. I don't know anything about this one. I know that I am pairing this with the Excelsior Brewing Company Hop Waves Hazy IPA. What are you pairing yours with, Mike?
Well, I have a bottle of water and some Glenlivet 12, which this may be the last time you hear that, given how much is left in my bottle. Maybe one more episode, but I doubt it.
We'll see. We'll see. Well, big shout out to the main event for guesting last episode. It was fun having him on as always.
Always great to talk to Bert. Always great.
I guess I'm going to light this up. The cap was not too pleasant, but not too unpleasant, I guess, either. So
for the audiophiles out there, let us know if you can tell the difference in my sound. I had to move my recording setup due to some construction in my podcast studio. So
sure,
it's not the typical setup. We'll see if the sound is as good or better or worse.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's good. I got a little pop filter in front of my microphone now, finally. So I also had some computer issues, and it's been a fun couple days. But luckily, we were ahead enough in the recording process that no noticeable interruptions to your entertainment.
I have to say, first couple puffs tastes fine.
It tastes fine.
Yeah, tastes fine.
There's a little bit of spice, not a lot, but there's a little bit of spice. And I guess the way it smelled like honey, I was expecting kind of like a sweet cap and a sweet smoke, and it's not overly sweet that I can tell.
It's not overly sweet, but it does have a sweet note, just not flavored sweet.
Yes. Not soaked in sugar sweet.
Exactly. So, what are we going to talk about today?
We are going to talk about monogamy and cheating through history.
I forgot that this was going to be the topic. You told me this like 3 weeks ago in real time. 3 weeks ago in real time.
3 weeks ago, real time. Then my computer shit the bed, or Amber hurted. Then we were off for a couple weeks, recording-wise, real-time-wise. But
yeah, so monogamy and cheating. I'm excited for it. Is this going to be a double-parter?
Boy, I don't know. I hope not. I mean, I've got 19 pages of notes here, so I'm going to try and get through it. It could be, I've got a subsection about kind of polygamy and things like that, which we could that could be a whole other episode, I suppose.
Right. Well,
we will see what we have time for. But I thought, throughout history would be kind of an interesting take on everything. Because we only have records for so far back.
Yeah, 7,000 years or thereabouts.
So, I don't know if you want to kick this off with some confession time or not, Mike, but I personally have never cheated, but I have been cheated on.
Well, I don't believe I've ever cheated on anybody. Trying to think. I don't believe so. I'm not sure if I've been cheated on. Probably. I spent a lot of years in the oil field, so...
Well, what happens out there stays out there.
Right, exactly.
All right, so we're going to start with some prehistoric and early human relationships. The evolutionary background is mostly that humans are socially flexible mammals. They're not strictly monogamous by biology, which you could look at just even, today. There's all sorts of different types of relationships out there, so... Not a surprise. There's evidence that suggests pair bonding emerged early in Homo sapiens evolution, and some of the anthropologic theories for why that did occur is parental investment theory. So if you have offspring, survival will actually increase if you have two caregivers, and mate guarding. So it reduces the uncertainty of paternity. Because across all life, I think some animals and some species care more about raising their own offspring versus raising offspring of another parent,
Right, lions.
Yep.
Wolves.
Most of the things David Attenborough talks about.
Yeah, most mammals, which we are mammals. Aren't there different kinds of apes and monkeys that pair bond, at least for mating season?
Well, I do have a whole section on animals, so we'll get to that in a little bit. I don't know if the apes and things are specifically in there because this one's more about the human relationships, but we could totally do like how freaky do animals get.
Right. Well, they got like the gay penguins and
yeah.
I know certain breeds of penguins, they mate with the same partner, and swans or something, all these semi-apocryphal stories that we've learned as children.
Yeah. So sexual dimorphism in humans is moderate, suggesting neither strict monogamy nor extreme polygyny. In hunter-gatherer societies, most of these were loosely monogamous, but they also had flexibility. Serial monogamy was most likely common. Pair bonds formed and dissolved. So they wouldn't necessarily mate for life, but they would only have kind of one partner at a time. Likely according to what anthropologists believe about them. They didn't leave like a written record necessarily.
Right. So they're lazily saying that people have always done what they've done in our written history. They just continued on, because that's pretty much the story of humanity. We lie to ourselves and say that, grandpa and grandma were with each other their whole lives and things like that. And sometimes it's true. A lot of people's grandparents, grandpa went out for a pack of cigarettes and never came home, so.
Well, yeah. And there's, the whole other kind of like religious slant too, depending on the society and culture you're living in, where if you had intimate relations before marriage and that was frowned upon or kind of shunned in your society, you didn't mention it. And so everyone thought, yep, everybody just saved themselves for marriage and this and that and whatever. So are you ever really going to get the full true picture? Probably not.
I mean, how many firstborn children were not the child of the future husband? Let's put it that way. Especially if that woman has land, right? Because you can make a wedding of convenience. And I've heard many stories like that.
Well, or a wedding of military strength and might, because I've also heard that. Less common today, but back in the feudal era, I think that happened quite a bit.
Well, the best daughter for your son is your neighbor's farmer, your farmer neighbor,
Yep.
Whatever that is.
Something like that.
Something like that.
So in the hunter-gatherer societies, some societies allowed some informal polygamy, which is one man with multiple wives. And they occasionally allowed polyandry, which is one wife with multiple men. So there's a Kung San, community or whatever, and they were generally monogamous, but they did have documented extramarital relationships. And the Hadza pair bonding was common, but sexual exclusivity was not always strict. And I think to some extent the Native Americans here, depending on the tribe, from what I've read, the women got to choose who they wanted to be with. So that was kind of a flip on the patriarchy.
Yeah, the allegedly Scandinavian society was similar. The woman was the one who decided to divorce.
Oh, sure. Got enough scrimshaw at home, you don't need a husband.
Right. Did you get anything on bride sales back in the day?
No.
Bride auctions? Oh, darn. Did we talk about bride auctions on the show?
No, I don't think we have, Mike.
Oh, man. We'll have to talk about bride auctions.
Okay. I'm down.
Yeah, continue on. It's like a European medieval tradition.
Sure. I know another kind of auction that was kind of like a Southern America, Southern USA tradition.
Similar but different.
Yeah. All right. So development of monogamy in ancient civilizations. We've got Mesopotamia. The legal system under the Code of Hammurabi recognized marriage as a contract. Monogamy was typical for commoners, and elite men often had concubines. Female adultery was punishable. Male infidelity was largely tolerated. Ancient Egypt was largely monogamous in practice, especially among non-elites. Women had a relatively high legal standing in ancient Egypt, and adultery could result in divorce or punishment, though that evidence is a little sketchy. And none of the pharaohs wanted to be buried with their cuck chair.
Right.
In ancient Greece, citizen men were expected to marry one woman. There was widespread acceptance of mistresses, sexual access to slaves, and female adultery was considered a serious offense. Isn't ancient Greece the one where you could fuck your male slaves as long as you were the one that was like the dom or the top?
Yes. Well, every city-state had their own little subculture.
Well, sure.
So it's more complicated. The Spartans were allegedly big homoerotic lover type army guys. They weren't allowed to marry until they were much older in life. So
okay. Sounds like that might be a good idea.
Right, yeah. They had mandatory military service and late marriages. So,
yeah. And rounding it out, ancient Rome had a strong emphasis on legal monogamy, but divorce was relatively easy in Rome. And there were some adultery laws, especially under Augustus, that criminalized female adultery, and punishments included exile, which is probably one of the tamest punishments on the list, because we've got a punishment section later.
Right. And I can say that only because I learned about this in school, adultery was common and tolerated for both men and women in ancient Rome. But the expectation societally was that all of the children would be the husbands. So they were fully expected to abort babies or to time their philandering around already getting pregnant with their husband's baby or whatever.
Yes. Or, the woman was always on top, that kind of thing. Which, by the way, listener, does not work.
Does not work. No. They had a pretty firm understanding of abortion and all the animal husbandry type of things that people seem to forget. So they had a good understanding. They knew what was up.
So I'm going to take a brief sidebar, and I'm getting some sweet notes now, finally, I think, a couple inches into this cigar. Kind of that honey sweet taste. So let me know if you're hitting that at all, Mike, or not.
I've had a sweet undertone the whole time.
Okay.
I have.
Mine got way stronger just recently, so.
Interesting. I'm having some, issues with air draw. It's puffing really
I had to
hard.
relight mine a bit, give it a little extra boost there at the end, but it's long. I feel like it shouldn't be this long, but really can't complain.
It's ridiculously long.
Yeah. All right, we're moving into monogamy across cultures globally. Predominance of polygyny. And remember, polygyny is one man, multiple wives. So there's been some anthropological surveys where 80 to 85% of recorded societies permitted polygyny. A majority of marriages still functionally monogamous due to resource limits. And we have to remember back in ancient or prehistoric humanity, and even up until fairly recently on the historical timeline, that the limited resources was a huge contributor to most things that humans did or humans could do.
Up until the current day. In some instances, we're going backwards on that, I would argue.
Up until post-industrial revolution, for sure.
Right. Even, depending on where you lived during the Industrial Revolution, resource management.
That's true, too.
Yeah.
But I think, farming, raising livestock, Industrial Revolution, those things all have contributed to get us where we are now, where we're not generally resource limited hugely. Not to the extent our ancestors were.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Okay. Polyandry, which is one woman with multiple husbands, which is also a plot of Paint Your Wagon, which is a very good Clint Eastwood, Lee Marvin movie. It's a Western, and yes, they both sing. So there you go. But it's pretty rare. It's been found in specific regions, Tibet, Nepal, and parts of India. And it's usually fraternal polyandry, which is brothers sharing one wife, which
sounds an awful lot like resource management. They could only afford to buy one slave, so they had to share.
Yeah. I don't really want to share with anybody, but I don't know if it'd be better to be a brother or if it would be better to be somebody I don't know. You know what I mean?
Right.
Anyway, not for me, but if it's for you, that's cool. Institutional monogamy became dominant in the Greco-Roman world and in Christian Europe. It has been reinforced by religion, inheritance systems, and state control. So that's something we haven't talked about yet in this episode, is the inheritance, where you would, bequeath your estate or lands or whatever to your heirs. And it's difficult to prove they're an heir if you are not monogamous, at least on paper.
Right. Isn't the plot of every fucking TV show now? All these historical fictions, nobody has a real father. Isn't that the plot line of every one of those shows?
Yeah, something like that. They don't have a father. They don't know who the father is. Could be anybody.
It changes based on the season.
Yep, based on the season and what narrative they're trying to push down your gullet. All right, so I put in here, it's a little section of monogamy versus polygamy. And I figured that's kind of the nice, because we're going to be talking more about cheating as we go along. And I wanted to talk a little bit about polygamy and monogamy because you can actually cheat in a polygamous relationship as well, which I think a lot of monogamous people kind of say if you're able to have relations with a lot of different people, you can't possibly cheat, but you can. So monogamy is one partner at a time. This can include lifelong or serial monogamy. And polygamy is kind of an umbrella term because you have polygyny, one man, multiple wives, which is the most common. You've got polyandry, which is one woman, multiple husbands, which is really rare. And you have consensual non-monogamy, which is a modern category, which includes open relationships, swinging, and polyamory. Is swinging still a thing? I feel like that was huge in the 70s or something, wasn't it? Like the swinger parties? I don't know
if that's a thing anymore, because people don't live in neighborhoods and know their neighbors. So pretty sure the swinger phenomenon's still going on right now, but amongst the older crowd.
Sure. So again, as we mentioned, polygyny, one man, multiple wives, has been pretty accepted globally. 80 to 85% of recorded societies have allowed it. However, a majority of the individuals in those societies still lived effectively monogamous lives due to resource constraints. Institutional monogamy dominated in Europe, North America, and much of East Asia. So some advantages of monogamy. We're going to do some advantages of monogamy, advantages or drawbacks of monogamy, and then advantages and drawbacks of polygamy. So advantages of monogamy, you've got social stability, you've got lower rates of violent competition among men, and it reduces the surplus male populations because unmarried men are linked to instability. Economic distribution limits concentration of partners among high-status men, and it's associated with a more even distribution of wealth and reproductive opportunities. The parental investment is a two-parent model, so it's increased time and resource investment per child, and it's correlated with improved child outcomes in many studies. Legal and institutional simplicity, it's really easy to figure out inheritance, property rights, and custody if you have two parents. Some of the drawbacks of monogamy, mismatch with human behavior, because humans show a desire for sexual variety. Just check anyone's browser history. And documented rates of infidelity, which leads to hidden non-monogamy. So that would be an affair, cheating, things of that nature. Serial monogamy has high rates of divorce and remarriage, and there are suggestions that monogamous systems are sequential rather than lifelong.
I would like to add that certain brands of polygamy are socially stabilizing. So in the Middle East, they practice Islam, and Islam allows men to have up to 4 wives. Now, there are some rules to that, which is they have to treat all their wives equally, which is economic in nature. So it's very common there if, the oldest brother dies, the next youngest brother marries his widow, and they move in with him.
Sure.
And they don't necessarily sleep together so much as he is legally obligated to provide for his dead brother's wife and his children as if they were his kids. So it's mostly an economic system at that point. And then, of course, the super rich guys, they can do all the nasty stuff they do everywhere. But they don't have social services, and that's a method for them to kind of have a social service system without actually doing anything.
Sure. And that makes sense. And it's accepted there. I mean, that's their culture, so.
It's just the accepted practice. It worked 1,500 years ago before the government was advanced. So it's just carried over.
Yes. And I'm not trying to poo-poo any of these practices. I mean, it's really what makes sense for people, right? Like consensual adults, consenting adults, whatever makes sense for you, makes sense for you. That's great. I'm not here to tell you polygamy sucks or monogamy sucks or one is better than the other. And the theme at the end, we'll get into, but I think, it's whatever people want to do is cool. And the biggest kind of issue is the communication or the expectations. And if you share them, everything is pretty good. Not that everything's perfect, but the last drawback of monogamy is that the cultural ideal of lifelong exclusivity may increase dissatisfaction and place multiple needs, emotional, sexual, and social, on one partner. The advantages of polygamy, and this is primarily the polygyny, the one man and multiple women, a reproductive strategy allows high-status men to increase the number of their offspring, and in some environments it's associated with population growth. Economic cooperation. In agrarian or pastoral societies, multiple wives contribute to farming and household labor, and it can increase household productivity, which, of course, as we all know, drives value for the shareholders.
Got to worry about those shareholders.
It has a social safety net. In some cultures, widows of unmarried women enter polygynous marriages for economic security, which Mike just talked about with Islam. And the flexibility of relationship structures can distribute emotional, domestic, and reproductive roles across multiple partners. There are some documented drawbacks of polygamy. There's inequality among men, so there's a big concentration of wives among high-status males, which leads to a large number of unmarried men, which is linked in some research to increased violence and social instability because single men do single men things and shit goes down, I guess, right? There's been some inter-household conflict, so there's been documented issues of jealousy between co-wives, competition for resources, and some studies show lower average well-being among co-wives compared to monogamous wives.
That's no surprise there, really. I mean,
Well,
there's
no, I know
only
it's
so
hard
much
enough to please
time
one.
resource. Yeah, well, exactly.
Well, and just, you don't have to be married or in a relationship to kind of understand, like, think of all of your friends that you have, and you've got different friend groups, and certain friend groups you hang out with at certain times, and sometimes you don't mix the friend groups, and sometimes you do, and sometimes you fall out of touch with one or two friends and then get back in touch, and just being social creatures, I guess, right?
It is the soup we swim in.
Yep. There's some resource dilution, so children in polygynous households may receive less parental attention per child. And the outcomes of that, though, vary widely by wealth and culture. And there's some gender inequality historically associated with reduced autonomy for women. And polyandry, which is rarer, is often tied to resource scarcity rather than gender equality. And we're going to do a little bit here about modern consensual non-monogamy, just because we don't want to leave anybody out, much like that Canadian person who added a bunch of letters to the LGBTQ+.
Yeah, missing Indigenous women and girls, two-spirit,
Yes.
lesbian, gay, transsexual. I can't remember them all now. It's LGBTQ plus the 2S plus the missing and murdered.
MWIW or something like that.
It's like missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
Yep.
Which is not an alternative. Those are not related to the other.
I don't know why they would be all lumped in.
Yeah, we've talked about this issue on the show. So
yeah, wouldn't it be easy? Wouldn't it be easier to just say non-white, non-straight? Like, that's easy. You can remember that. Just say that then, if that's what you mean.
It's
to an extent.
It's just another way to be an istinophobe, people. I don't know what else to say. It's just another way to be a prick. Oh, it's just another way to be a nasty person, be exclusionary and unpleasant.
Yes. So we're going to talk about the modern consensual non-monogamy, which it goes by the acronym CNM, since we're talking about acronyms. There's about 4 to 5% of United States adults that are currently in consensual non-monogamous relationships. 20% of United States adults have tried some form of this in their lifetime. The outcomes are that some studies find comparable relationship satisfaction to monogamous couples when it's consensual and transparent. The key variables are communication, boundaries, and agreement clarity. And when we move into our cheating section, which is coming up, those things will be referenced a few times. So who supports each system? Monogamy supporters have historically been religious institutions and state governments. Modern supporters cite stability, child-rearing benefits, and emotional exclusivity. Polygyny supporters have typically been found in parts of Africa, the Middle East, and historical elite classes globally, often justified by tradition, religion, and economic structure. Polyandry has been practiced in Tibet, Nepal, and parts of India, and it's usually driven by land resource preservation. And modern CNM polyamory advocates is associated with an emphasis on autonomy and consent, rejection of exclusivity as default. And it's more common among younger, urban, and more secular populations.
Hyper-feminists, I'm going to guess. A lot of the alphabet people, I'm also going to guess.
Probably.
Let's do a cigar check, Nate.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to do, I've got a very short monogamy in the animal kingdom, and then we're going to move into cheating. So let me get through the animal kingdom, and then we'll cigar check. Is that okay, Mike?
Of course.
Okay. So social versus sexual monogamy. Social monogamy is pairs live together. Sexual monogamy is exclusive mating, which is pretty rare. The examples of monogamous animals are swans. They do long-term pair bonds. Wolves, the alpha pair leads the pack. Albatross, they have lifelong pair bonding. And prairie voles, strong pair bonding, widely studied in neuroscience. Infidelity in animals, many monogamous species engage in extra-pair copulation, and genetic studies show offspring often have multiple fathers. But now we'll do a cigar check. I'm about halfway, maybe a little over half.
I'm a little over halfway. And I have to say, this is much better than I was expecting from this bundle. We've had some stinkers in this group, and so far, this is perfectly adequate. I would say that for a bin cigar, this is not bad at all.
Yeah, this has been fine. So far, I've got to a point now just recently where it's not tasting the greatest, but it started out fine and kind of mediocre, and then the kind of the sweetness or the honey increased, and I liked it better, and now it's kind of decreased again, and I don't like, if you're going to give it to me, don't take it away. I really, it's not bad. I can't complain. It's
for a $1.70 cigar, it is not bad.
Yes, in perspective, it is not bad. All right, we're going to cheating, and cheating specifically in ancient history. So the earliest recorded reference of cheating. Do you want to guess which culture or society, Mike?
Earliest recorded. I mean, it's going to have to be like Sumerian, right? Akkadian. I'm going to say Akkadian.
Well, Mesopotamian tablets reference accusations of adultery.
That is so lazy on your part, Nate. Mesopotamian could be Babylonian or Akkadian or Sumerian or Israeli. There's a number of cultures from Mesopotamia.
My note here says Mesopotamian, and then in parentheses, whichever culture Mike guessed, and parentheses, tablets reference accusations of adultery.
Okay, that's why I said Akkadian. That's why I said Akkadian. He's the first emperor, so that's kind of where she begins, but
probably so.
Could be Sumerian. They were ancient.
Could be. So Egyptian love poetry suggests romantic sexual relationships outside of marriage. Greek and Roman literature, Aristophanes, Ovid reference infidelity. Is it Aristophanes? Aristophanes? I don't know.
I don't know. I would have to look at it.
Don't look at it. Keep your eyes off my stuff. And biblical texts, numerous references to adultery, the 10 Commandments, covet not thy neighbor's wife, sort of thing. The historical definition of cheating is a violation of the marriage contract, and it's often focused on female sexual exclusivity. Male infidelity is often treated differently depending on status and partner. Like if you're cheating on a high-ranking woman, probably not going to be good for you. But if you're the high-ranking one, probably pretty okay.
History has not been kind to women.
This is true. We've got some historical examples of men being punished for infidelity. In the ancient Near East, the Old Testament, ancient Israel, adultery defined as sex with another man's wife. The punishment applied to both parties equally, and the prescribed penalty was death for both the man and the woman. In ancient Rome, adultery was criminalized, especially under Emperor Augustus. Male offenders could face fines, confiscation of property, exile, and public humiliation. In some cases, male participants, especially with married women, were explicitly prosecuted. In ancient China, under imperial legal systems, male adultery could be punished by castration, also called the gong punishment, followed by forced labor as a eunuch. One of the most severe penalties globally for male infidelity was in ancient China. Medieval Europe, the church courts punished both men and women, and male punishments included fines, public penance, flogging, and excommunication. Some records suggest that men were prosecuted regularly, especially in urban courts. And some select cases from early modern Europe, civil law actions like criminal conservation in England. Men were sued for having affairs with married women. Financial penalties could be severe. And in some regions, male lovers, not the married woman, were executed in high-profile cases, especially with royal scandals. Any questions on those, Mike?
No, I don't have any questions. Most of those cases sound like it's still enforcing the rights of the man, just a different man.
Well, yeah.
To be, a negative Nancy and all that.
Well, none of these said that the woman could demand reparations or vindication or, So you're right. It's no surprise. Like men were the property holders of ancient times and historical times, and sometimes still to this day. So
absolutely, and that's where. So I'll interject here with bride sales.
Yeah.
So in medieval Europe, divorce was banned for the most part, but the elites could still get a divorce. They could pay either the papacy or the Lutheran Church or Anglican Church for divorces, but poor people couldn't afford that. So it was semi-common practice. We have multiple written records of it in more modern times where the husband would bring the wife into the town square and he would sell her to a quote-unquote random stranger, and then that woman would leave with them and become their wife. My understanding is that it was typically prearranged, so they'd sell their wife to whoever for $1 or whatever the case may be. And that was kind of their version of a divorce because it wasn't really allowed. And of course, these peasants, other than their taxes, nobody really gave a shit what they were doing. So they could do whatever they wanted to do. And as long as their local priest was, relatively relaxed, then it was fine. Which, a little hint to everybody, if they weren't relaxed, they probably wouldn't be alive very long in a rural village. But that's a conversation for another time.
Well, yeah, and a lot of this is what is socially acceptable where these people are living.
Right, yeah.
If it's not socially allowed to do like a bride auction or whatever, right, then you're probably not going to do it because the social shunning or kind of exile that would come from that, or the humiliation, would be such that your family might be condemned to death if that were to happen, because that's how serious these people took that stuff.
Oh, the church was 100% against bride sales. But as I say, before the state got so powerful that they had surveillance records on everybody, which, believe it or not, was 300-400 years ago, people just kind of did what they wanted to do without regard to what the authorities told them. So
yeah. Well, that's basically the plot of Braveheart, right? Is they get married in secret to circumvent the law.
Right. Which is fanciful. It's not a real story, but...
Great movie, but,
Wonderful movie. One of the best movies I've ever seen.
All right, we're going to do some cultural responses and punishments for adultery, and this is not just male-specific. But I wanted to put in some male-specific things because usually, as Mike pointed out, it's punishments against the women. So legal consequences across civilizations in Mesopotamia. Under the Code of Hammurabi, adultery was treated as a serious legal offense, and common punishment was death, usually by drowning, for both parties. In some cases, the husband could pardon his wife, which would spare both of their lives. Which seems to me like... And I don't know what divorce was like in Mesopotamia, but you can either be drowned or you can say that it was okay. You forgive her for doing it. Seems kind of a silly.
The Code of Hammurabi, if you've never looked it up, listener, you should look it up because it's very base animalistic, but makes a lot of sense. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth.
A cheek for a cheek. Ancient Egypt was less codified, but it was still pretty regulated socially. Consequences included divorce and some possible physical punishment. It pretty much varied based on status and circumstance, which sounds about right for ancient Egypt. Ancient Greece, female adultery was considered a major social and legal violation. Male response could be divorce, public humiliation, and in some cases, the legal right to kill the male lover if caught in the act. And ancient Rome, under laws such as Lex Julia de Adulteris, sorry for my pronunciation, adultery became a criminal offense, and penalties included exile, fines, and confiscation of property. Fathers could legally kill an adulterous daughter and her partner under specific conditions, and husbands had a little bit more limited but still recognized rights of violent retaliation.
Now, I believe this is true, but fact check me, guys, because this is memory from 20 years ago. I believe Augustus is the one who passed that law, and rumor on the street was that his daughter was a skank and that he wanted to threaten her, and he had her exiled because she wouldn't stop sleeping around, and it drove him nuts because her husband was one of his buddies / generals or something of that order, and she was running around being a skank, and he just couldn't have his political friend be disowned or disrespected like that by his daughter.
Well, I think that tracks because Augustus has come up several times already in this episode. But it sounds like Augustus was the OG bro code homie.
Something like that. There was a reason why he took over after his uncle died / was killed. So
/ committed suicide in his jail cell.
Yeah.
After
whatever the version of events are that you believe. Even as back as far as Caesar, people disagree about what happened. So...
Well, wasn't it something like there were 23 people who said they were going to stab Caesar, but only 7 stab wounds? So even back then, group projects sucked?
Yes. And even back then, there was a conspiracy about Caesar allowing it to happen for political reasons, as he was dying of some weird disease.
Syphilis, probably.
There was... Allegedly, he was incontinent.
Okay.
So he was like... dying from the inside. They don't know exactly what's going on, but he couldn't hold his stool.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
All right, so we're going into a little bit darker territory here. So killing for infidelity, legally sanctioned or tolerated. Ancient Near East and biblical law, adultery defined as a violation of the marriage. And the punishment was death for both parties, and it was often described as stoning in biblical texts. Ancient Rome, in certain contexts, killing an adulterous spouse or partner could be legally justified or mitigated, and the emphasis was on protecting family honor and lineage. We've got early modern to 20th century, there's some crime of passion laws that have been on the books. In Europe, legal systems recognize reduced responsibility for killings in response to adultery. For example, France, up until 1975, husbands who killed wives upon discovering infidelity could receive reduced sentences. Which is wild because I thought France was just everybody could fuck everybody. But also 1975, like that's crazy recent.
Still happens in the United States that people are allowed to kill their spouse for infidelity. There's a famous story that I heard from North Dakota where a woman shot her husband in the driveway and received community service. Like shot him arriving home from his, girlfriend when she found out.
Yep. The thunder rolls, Mike. The thunder rolls.
Well, you get what you get.
Latin America, there are honor defenses embedded in the law, and killings immediately following discovery of adultery are often treated with leniency or reduced punishment. Some non-lethal punishments are fines, exile, confiscation of property, and forced divorce. There's some religious and social public penance, medieval church courts, excommunication, ostracism from the community. And there's some public humiliation, so they would put them in stocks, branding, or symbolic punishment. That's the Scarlet Letter, right, Mike?
Yeah, they did more than just the Scarlet Letter. My understanding is they would cut ears and noses and all sorts of things.
Well, sure. I just meant the book, but...
Oh, yeah.
So gender disparities in punishment. Women historically faced harsher and more consistent punishment. The reasons were paternity, certainty, inheritance, and lineage control, and social regulation of female sexuality. Once they started showing their ankles, all hell broke loose. And men have also been punished across many cultures, some of those by executing exile fines or corporal punishment, and they're more likely to be punished when involved with another man's wife or violating social hierarchy or property rights. So we've talked about some of the punishments, but we really haven't talked about what is cheating. And it is basically sexual infidelity, emotional infidelity, digital online relationships. And it's different for every couple or every relationship, right? Some people think that looking at online pornography is cheating. Some don't. Some think that flirting at like a work party or something or at some other social gathering is cheating, and others think that's fine. It varies drastically by the couple or by the, what do you call it, the relationship unit maybe, because we've talked about polygamy, we've talked about consensual non-monogamy, and we've talked about monogamy. So it's not necessarily just the couple, right? It's the people in the relationship, I guess. How would you phrase that, Mike?
In the modern world, there are no rules, and that's just a fact. So it's whoever's involved with the situation,
I guess, yeah, the concerned parties, I guess?
Yeah, the concerned parties. We don't have rules anymore. We live in a lawless society in many ways. People just throw garbage on the ground, so you can't expect them to behave.
Yeah, there's that. I think, though, cheating might not be punishable legally or even socially to some extent as much as it was in the past. The concerned parties in a relationship have to define what is and is not cheating, because if they don't, almost anything's allowed, right?
Well, yeah, the people involved in the relationship need to define the parameters they're comfortable with, and the rules theoretically should be followed.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's no real control mechanism for that, but...
Well, there's no control mechanism, and we've moved on from the legal punishments, which is probably a good thing.
I mean, maybe. I'm not going to say it is.
Well, I'm not a fan of cheaters.
I'm not a fan of treating other people the way you don't want to be treated. So...
Yeah.
It's not good. It's bad for everybody. So...
Yeah. I'm just saying one couple's definition of cheating might be watching R-rated movies with nudity. That might be cheating. Another couple's definition might be you can get handsy, but anything beyond that is cheating. Which, as far as I am concerned, if both parties are adults and consenting to that definition, I really don't care. Like, they can set their own boundaries and their own definitions.
I agree. Like, this is a free world. You should do what you want.
Yeah. But if you communicate and make a commitment, you should keep that fucking commitment.
Oh, I agree. Again, like, being a piece of shit's not punished, not even socially in some instances.
Yeah.
I will say that even in the modern world, downstream consequences can be severe.
Oh, yeah. So there are 20 to 25% of married men and 10 to 15% of married women report infidelity. I feel like that's awfully low. But again, I don't have any basis.
I don't know if it's low so much as the divorce rate's a lot higher. So people leave before they get to that point now more than ever.
Sure, or they don't disclose.
Yeah, you're asking people to self-report, so it's not really accurate to reality. It's accurate to what people are willing to tell about themselves.
Well, and it's accurate to what people believe, because people could believe that they weren't cheating and then their partner believed that they were, right? Because maybe they didn't have the conversation about the boundaries or the agreement, right, of what is or is not.
Absolutely.
All right, so some motivations for cheating is opportunity. Something's there and you got to have it. Dissatisfaction or novelty seeking. They're going to put on those cat ears or something in latex and meow at you. I don't know. So I wanted to also look at some media and cultural perceptions of cheating and the representations in media. And there's been recently frequent depictions of cheating in television dramas, films, reality TV, and it's usually framed as dramatic conflict, so just for funsies, and as a personal growth catalyst. Whereas in the kind of older school television, films, TV, books, the personal growth catalyst was something like, I don't know, a mountain lion bit your leg off and you had to overcome, or you're Rudy trying out for the fucking football team and this is your last year to do it. Like, that's personal growth. Like, fucking everyone over, isn't that really personal growth?
Dude, it's modern storytelling. Certain people are never at fault. Certain other people always are. It's part of the message.
It is the message. And I'm not saying that media can be blamed, because a lot of people like to blame video games for violence and school shootings and things of that nature, and that's been disproved time and time again. But I think there can be a desensitization towards cheating or certain behaviors if it's everywhere, right? If you like shooting people and you play a video game about shooting people, like, that's one thing, I guess, right? As long as you don't shoot people in real life. But some of this other stuff there, I think the lines are purposely being blurred or grayed for certain things. And I don't know why. Maybe because more than 20% of people report cheating. Maybe that's why. I don't know. The desensitization argument's always slippery. Yeah.
But it certainly is it's happening.
Yeah.
It's happening. Getting hard numbers possible.
Yeah.
But the things that I would accept are not going to be the same as my great-grandfather, let's say.
Yeah.
In many areas of life. So
that is true. Some good, some bad. Some studies do suggest that repeated exposure to infidelity narratives may normalize or reduce perceived severity, right? So they're putting this infidelity kind of on the same level as, you know what, I told everybody I wasn't going to eat donuts, but there's a donut right here, I'm just going to eat it. You've got kind of that instant gratification versus doing the right thing.
And I think a lot of people in modern society look at cheating as if it is just eating a donut.
Yeah.
I mean, certain segments of our society.
Yeah.
Certainly, they just revel in it, seemingly, if you believe the internet, which is always a mistake, but.
Yes. I've got statistics for modern infidelity. Power increases infidelity to a point. I've got a nice little graph here, but basically it's broken down by non-management, low management, mid-management, and top management. And there's casual sex and infidelity. So casual sex for both non-management and low management is around 50%. Mid-management casual sex is 61%. Casual sex is 40% in the top management. And then the infidelity line, non-management and low management, 9%. Mid-management, that climbs to 24%. And top management infidelity is 37%. And again, 20 to 25% of married men report cheating, and 10 to 15% of married women report cheating. That is self-reporting. 21% of people in monogamous relationships admit to cheating overall. So that's almost a quarter of monogamous relationships admit to cheating. So that's underreported.
It's underreported. And I saw a study many years ago that the EU did, and supposedly over 40% of women admit that at least one of their children may not be their husband's.
Yep. So some gender differences. Men are still reporting at higher rates, but that gap is narrowing. So they've seen the trend where it's narrowing. So since 1990, female infidelity rates have increased significantly, but male rates have remained relatively stable.
Do you think that is equalizing, or do you think it's equalizing in reporting, or do you think it's equalizing in action?
Possibly both. I mean, there's almost no punishment for cheating anymore. And I think that, I don't know, I almost feel like men who have, let's just take a playbook out of the feminist's handbook, or a page out of the feminist handbook, is men have almost always had the luxury of being able to cheat. And that is 20 to 25% of married men are reporting it. So if we take that at face value, a quarter of men are trash. And that's fine. And their rates aren't increasing. They've been remaining stable because they're not being given any more rights. Nobody's telling them they're special or they're entitled to things. And you've got the females, especially since 1990, right? And maybe a little bit before, because I think action lags behind, women's rights to vote and women's right to do all this stuff. And it takes a generation or two for that stuff to kick in, which is fine. They should have those things. I'm not trying to say those are bad things. But we've got a narrative now almost everywhere that the woman is always right. You always believe the woman. If a woman says this, you believe her because they've been oppressed for so long and they're entitled to be treated like princesses. Nobody cares their body count. You can't even ask the body count. That shouldn't even be a thing you're asking. And so they should have all the same stuff. And so I think you're getting kind of this base of entitled people that don't think their actions have consequences, whereas men have had consequences all along, maybe not to the same extent women have. But I mean, how many of those period movies from the 20s or the 40s where the man's a piece of shit and the woman's like, we can stay married for the social status, but we're sleeping in separate rooms, or I'm not ever going to touch you ever again. And, and they just kind of silently suffer. Everybody silently suffers, right? That was kind of, you don't talk about it, you just silently suffer. So I don't know, something like that. I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that's an internet thing. I think it's having real consequences now for young people, but I think people our age, at least the majority, understand that there's social consequences for your actions. And no matter how much propaganda you intake, there are going to be consequences for your actions.
Oh, yeah, I agree 100%. I wasn't saying they don't have consequences. I'm just saying they feel like there's no consequences. And they feel like they're entitled to do these things. The women.
A growing number.
A growing number of women, not all the women. And the only reason is because the male numbers have stayed steady. Because the men aren't getting treated any differently than they've been treated throughout history. And the women are getting treated differently, at least through the narratives and through the messaging and the media, right? And
yeah, maybe as a leveling off. It's a leveling off of piece of shit behavior. 25% of people are garbage automatically.
Yep. Which tracks
or untrustworthy.
with 21% of people in monogamous relationships admit to cheating, and that's irregardless of gender. So you've got 25% of married men, 10 to 15% of married women who self-report, but you've got 21% of people in monogamous relationships admit to cheating overall, which tells me either 25 and 15. If you take the average, it's not 21. I don't think it'd be under 20.
There's same-sex couples and things of that nature. So,
well, yeah, but we're just talking monogamous. We're not. But yeah, women. Yeah, I guess you're right. Same sex. But the younger adults, 18 to 34, reported higher cheating rates, 25 to 30% in some studies. So I think you're onto something with the younger generation is doing it more. We've got sexual infidelity, 20% of men versus 13% of women. There's emotional infidelity. There's not really a gender gap with the emotional infidelity. And digital and online infidelity is increasingly common due to apps and social media. And according to Grindr, any kind of Republican convention.
That is one of the best stats ever. And it should tell everyone everything about what's happening. That is, it should tell you. It should tell you.
The United States ranks among the highest reported infidelity rates globally. The other high reporting regions are Germany, United Kingdom, Brazil, and France. Within the United States, there are regional hotspots, certain southern and midwestern states. So we're right in it, Mike.
Southern and western does not describe where I live.
Southern and midwestern states.
Oh, midwestern. Oh, no.
It's the winters. You need someone warm to cozy up with.
Sure. It's getting stuck. It's getting stuck because of the weather.
Context and opportunity. 31% of affairs occur with coworkers. Over 50% of affairs involve someone known. So these aren't random hookups, at least half of the time, right? Which I guess is good. I mean, right? Kind of.
It's no surprise.
Like,
it's
well,
not
it's no
a
surprise, but it's not like it's the random one-nighter stuff. I mean, even if it's a one-night thing, but it's not just some random stranger. You know what I mean? So I think, like, to some extent, 50% of affairs involve someone known. You can view that in a positive way. Like, it's not just, oh, I just have to go get fucked, right? Don't care who it is. Whereas, you know, a majority of child abuse happens by somebody known. That's a bad statistic. But
well, you could spin that into a positive as well. At least there's not gangs in the United States like there are in the UK, allegedly.
Yeah. I mean, you can spin it either way, I guess. I just... So cheating occurs across happy relationships and unhappy relationships, which is no surprise. And a significant percent of people that report cheating say that they're not unhappy when they're cheating. They're quite happy to do it.
They're quite happy to do it. I like that.
Well, you know, 25% of people are garbage people, so of course they'd be happy to do it, wouldn't they?
I guess so.
I'm quite happy to drink some beer and smoke cigars and talk about random stuff. So, to each their own. Modern feminism and changing norms. I want to talk a little bit about the feminism movement. Documented social changes. There's been an increased emphasis on gender equality in relationships and female sexual autonomy, and a decline in double standards in many societies. Some scholars argue that feminism challenges traditional ownership-based views of marriage, and others note there's no clear evidence linking feminism directly to increased infidelity rates. Again, I have knowingly myself, I've been cheated on 3 times. In my life, known for sure. And I don't think that I ever felt like I owned the other person. You know what I mean? But it was against what we agreed upon.
Well, Nate, as has been a constant in our relationship conversations over the years, we have a personal responsibility crisis. People do not want to take accountability for their actions, nor do they want to take accountability for their own happiness. They would like to pretend that it's other people's responsibility for them.
Yes.
For everything in their life. So if we have a bunch of people who feel that they're not responsible for their own selves, then you're going to have these things happen at a higher rate, which I believe in our society, globally and specifically in the United States, people don't feel responsible for themselves. They do not.
Yeah, I don't think they do. I think this is very, very important where because I don't feel ownership. Like, it wasn't that my girlfriend who cheated on me was my property. Like, that's not what it was. But we decided, or we agreed upon, an exclusive relationship. And a relationship is a social contract, right? It's not like a legal contract unless you get married, but it's a social contract, and you're making an agreement, like the handshake agreement. There was a time when the handshake was legally binding, and your word was your word, and if you went back on your word, nobody would do business with you ever again because you were a known liar. And we have moved so far beyond that, where we've done a complete 180 where somebody will cheat, violate the social contract, and I don't care what gender, and then tell you it's your fault for making them cheat, or that you weren't delivering something that somehow allows them to cheat without guilt. And the key is communication. If you're not getting something, or if it's not working, you don't have to cheat. You can end the relationship. You can terminate the social contract and then do what you want to do. But so many of these times, like, why would it even be a thing? We have instant communication. You could terminate the social contract 20 seconds before penetration. You know what I mean? Like, it's not difficult to do. But again, that takes responsibility, accountability, and open and clear communication. And people just don't do it. And it's the donut. It's the donut sitting there in the break room. You gotta have it. Gotta have it now. And it's okay because it's just a donut. All right. So to wrap everything up, infidelity is common but not universal. It's highly dependent on definitions and self-reporting, and I think communication is the biggest thing, regardless of what sort of relationship you're in. If you're in a relationship, even with friendships, non-sexual, platonic stuff like with your buddies, whatever. The communication is important in everything. And nobody knows if you don't tell them.
Yeah, I think we're just in a society where we aren't expected to treat each other well anymore. And maybe we never
really
were.
Any consequence.
Yeah, there used to be serious consequences and people still did it. So the consequences aren't the important part. The important part is we don't feel obligated to one another to treat each other well, which sucks. That's really, really not good. And you can change your own behavior. You can't change other people's. So other people can do all the bad things in the world. It does not require you to do the same in kind.
Yes. Monogamy has been culturally reinforced. It's not purely biological, but I feel like it's been kind of the statistically primary mode of human coupling, right? Been universally present across time, and it's mostly based on property, lineage, and gender. And this is back in the limited resource days for sure, or the upper echelons of society where they have castles and other things to pass along down the generations. The gender gap does kind of exist for cheating, for cheating and things, but that gap is shrinking in younger generations. As we said, the female cheating rate is kind of going up, and the males has stayed stable. And I still think 25% is too high. But
that's a crazy stat, really. Like, very uncomfortable stat.
Man, it's crazy because it's underreported. Because this is all self-reported stuff. It's not like you can get actual data. Well, okay, so 20% reported cheating, but really it was 35% that were actually cheating. There is no actually because you can't track that. At least not now. Once everybody has the Neuralink thing from Elon Musk, then yeah, it'll be tracked, but
it's wild.
Not today. And the opportunity factors, so it's the workplace and the internet have contributed to, facilitating this stuff. I mean, the workplace has kind of maybe always been there, but with the internet and the instant communication, it's a lot easier to get a coworker's number and start off a certain way and then have things escalate, I suppose, right?
So I would like a correction on that. It was not always a factor. Back in the day, workplaces were not mixed. So it wouldn't have been that long ago, even at my father's time. He was not working with women in 1970 as a military engineer. They weren't around.
I understand that, Mike.
So
I would like a correction on your correction. It still was happening. Because it was not socially acceptable to be homosexual. So it didn't matter who you're working with. If you're a Republican, you could still be banging dudes, right?
That's very true. And we know that has been going on forever.
Well, we know
forever.
That the homosexuality has been going on forever. So
forever. And it was hidden up until...
Hidden, for sure.
Even my father's generation. Think of all the boomer men that divorced their wives after 30 years. I know multiple guys who some of them are dead. That's how old, they would be 80, 90 years old now. And it was just the way things were, Yeah. The railroad guys have boyfriends, that sort of shit, It's like, and the weird part, and this is the weirdest part to me, is all their coworkers knew. They just didn't care. Nobody gives a shit. It was just somehow the major society made it a problem, but everybody around them knew. It's not like it was a surprise.
I don't know that there's been anybody that's actually known people different from them. This goes for anything. It doesn't matter if they're homosexual or a different race or whatever, different culture. People that have actually known these people have not had a problem with them. It's the people that don't know these people and are afraid, or the government trying to stir things up.
Well, yeah, it's low conscientiousness, right? Low conscientiousness.
So I just, the workplace stuff's always been there. There's, what the country clubs too. Like, who knows? There's always been places for people to go to meet other people, to have affairs, if they're the kind of person that would have an affair, right? So
true.
And of course, like Mike and I, as monogamous heterosexual people, we're often looking at this from a monogamous heterosexual viewpoint, but that's not everybody. So we're not trying to offend anybody or keep anybody out. But
no, that's not the intent.
History's
obviously. No, I mean it's what it is. We lie. Yeah. We have been told lies about what happened in the past, all the way down to grinding up burial grounds to lay the foundation for our highway system.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yes, indeed. All right. I'm done with my cigar. Are you done with your cigar, Mike?
I am.
I can't believe we made it through 19 pages of notes, but we did it.
That was a yak attack, man.
Yeah, I'm excited not to talk next episode.
Well, who knows what we're going to talk about next episode. Your next episode, listener, is not our next episode. We're going to go back into the past. So,
Marty.
Yeah. We're recording this, April... Oh, geez.
14th.
14th today?
14th.
Yeah, April 14th.
Tax day tomorrow. If you're listening to this and I just frightened you, it's too late. They should have been filed a long time ago.
Well, just listen to the guys that say you don't have to file your taxes. It comes up every year. And I've always heard the apocryphal tales. We've talked about it even on the show.
Yeah, put your address in all caps on all mailings to and from your residence, and you too can be a sovereign citizen for the low fee of $500 a year or some shit.
Put the postal code in the upper left lower corner.
Yes.
With a stamp that's upside down and 3/4 off or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I gave this one a 2. The taste was mostly fine throughout. I liked the kind of quarter of the way in shift to be more honey flavored. And then it kind of went away and it was fine throughout, but I did have to relight it probably 3 or 4 times. And I know I was talking a lot, so I was trying to smoke and puff on it. So some of that might be me. Dirt cheap, but I'll give it a 2. There's other things I'd pick up over this, I guess.
Definitely not first on my list. I would say the zone for this particular cigar is if you are on a fishing trip and you see a little humidor box and you see Old Havana and they're $2, $3, $4. You could buy a handful of them. And when you catch a fish, you can throw them in the water because they're cheap. And that's what they're good for. I put this at a 2.5. And the reason I did, the first half was good. The second half, not nearly as good. However, I did smoke it to a nub. Yeah. So it did not get sour. It did have some sweetness in the first half.
Yep.
It did have some spiciness. It was very medium bodied. And I did not have to relight, but I did have to even the burn. So about halfway through, I had probably an inch of taper. And I had to re-burn the bottom, which in post, Nate will take all of the cigar lighting noises out. Even though I always do it right in front of my microphone on purpose.
You have to.
So, yeah. Nate always removes them, even though every time I do it right in front of the microphone so you can hear me. But
you know what? We might have to, you know what? If we get enough Patreon followers, and we should always mention this at the start of the episode, but we never do, because we just do this for fun. But if we get enough Patreon followers, I will go back and I will take all of Mike's cigar lighting noises and I will put together a 4-hour ASMR compilation that you can just listen to fall asleep at night of him lighting thousands of cigars.
For those who don't know, if you're new and you're listening for some reason, I have my cutter is mechanical and it has a cha-chink, and my lighter is a Zippo with a butane insert that I am everybody who sees it is a big fan of it. It is really cool.
Yeah.
But a very loud cigar lighting operation I have, I can tell you. Yeah.
Well, we do have some new listeners, Mike. We have Sam from California and Brittany from Wisconsin, and those are two new listeners that I'm aware of. So if you too would like a shout out, just let us know you're listening, and maybe we'll mention you on the show.
Yeah, welcome to the fold. We're glad to have you. If you have episode ideas, let us know. If you want to be a guest, let us know.
Yeah, if you want to be a guest, if you have cigars you want us to try, If you hate us and you want us to try the worst thing ever, send it our way.
If you hate us and you want to talk trash to us, we'll have you on and you can, tell us how evil we are for not cheating on our wives.
And not liking Israel.
Yeah, and not liking Star Wars or Star Trek that was made post 2005 or whatever the year would be. I haven't drawn a line in the sand yet, so.
Yeah, there's no need. Just anything recent-ish.
Yeah, anything recent for either one, more or less. Minus the Mandalorian episode, or seasons 1 and 2. Those were good.
3 was trash, but 1 and 2 was good.
2.5 was good. 3 was fine. 2.5 being Boba Fett. I mean, if you eliminate the Boba Fett factor, it was perfectly adequate. It just shouldn't have been called Boba Fett.
Well, yeah.
It was fine. I liked all the callbacks to the Clone Wars. It was fine.
Fine.
My wife had no idea what was going on because she never watched the Clone Wars, and we tried, and she couldn't handle it.
Yep.
She's like, it's cartoons, one of those things. It's like, hell, I'm a child.
Cartoons can be good.
Yeah. Well, the Old Havana, I don't necessarily recommend it, but if you're in a bait shop and you're getting your stuff together and you're going to be covered in fish stank, and
it'll be in the bin right
in
next to the fucking leeches. But if it's an Old Havana, you can pick it up. It's not bad.
This is going to be in a plastic bin that's loose that has a dry packet in the back. Yeah. That's where you're going to find this.
Yep. Yeah. Last week there were leeches in this, but the tourists have stopped stopping in. So now they just made it into their little storage bin for the Old Havanas.
Right. Like if you're going to put this in between your Colt 45 and your OG 800, this is what you want, Your Coors Light and your, they don't even make it anymore, but like plum brandy. Yep. I don't think they make plum brandy anymore.
Your Natty Ice and your blueberry brandy or whiskey or whatever the fuck. And,
exactly.
You're good to go.
Was it blueberry brandy where you grew up? It was plum brandy where I grew up.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Blackberry. No, it was blackberry brandy.
Yeah, blackberry.
Yeah,
that's
blackberry brandy. Yeah, you know what? I've been looking for it, and I got blackberry Crown Royal.
Oh, nice.
But I haven't been able to find like legit old school shitty blackberry schnapps, they call it blackberry brandy, but it's blackberry schnapps is what it is.
Well, yeah,
but it's schnapps. We don't need to lie to ourselves.
No. But yeah, despite the Stogies randomly appearing on the label, like the word Stogies, which is it's fine, but that's definitely something that puts you in a certain bracket of expectation. And this cigar outperformed its expectation. I thought this was going to be an absolute shit show of a cigar, and it was not. So I guess that's good for them. Good for them.
Yeah, good on them. The Glenlivet made it better. It didn't. Usually, I pour it when I think we're going to have a stinker. So
yeah.
We'll see.
Pretty okay-ish. And you know what? Don't cheat on people. Just communicate. We've got instant communication. If you're not happy, just break it off, man. It's easier the earlier it happens. So, whatever.
I know it's hard for some people, but you should be honest, be kind, be truthful. Be truthful to yourself, most of all, right? The things you need to do to be satisfied with life.
Yes.
So, don't delude yourself.
Otherwise, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Be safe, have fun.